All right, as we work towards implementing the use of Canvas Outcomes and Rubrics into our courses, a little intro video seems necessary. So I'm going to do my best to just give you a quick intro. I don't want to take too much of your time. I don't want you to look down at the time ticker on the bottom of the video and say, wow, that's really long. So enough of this. I'm going to move it right along and give you a quick overview on how to apply outcomes. I'm only going to use outcomes applied via a rubric. I'm not going to worry about applying the outcomes via the quiz tool in Canvas. So I'm just going to focus on one area, and that's going to be the area that we're going to probably most likely put it to use the majority of the time. So without further ado, the first thing you're going to do is within a particular course, you're going to head on over to the course navigation, and from there you need to find the outcomes link. Go ahead and click on that, and from there the first thing that you're probably going to want to do is bring in your course outcomes. Now, as I mentioned, all of your outcomes are going to be preloaded at the institution level. We're going to take care of loading all of the different goals, I guess we'll call them. You may have heard me referencing outcomes, but I've been told that it's also going to be, or should be, known as goals. So I'll try and work on this, but Canvas calls it outcomes, we call it goals. So the first thing you need to do is go find your course goals that have already been added. And to do that, all you're going to do is click on Find, and then click on Account Standards, and you will see Montcalm Community College. From there, go through and find the program or department. And I'm just going to keep it simple right now just to show you how this works. And then click on the actual department. And then you're going to find your course. If your course is not listed here, you need to contact the service desk and get in touch with me, Kevin Wagenmaker, as soon as you can so we can address this issue. But go ahead and find your course. And within your course, you will see your different goals. You can import the entire folder, which I would obviously recommend, so you don't have to go through and import each goal separately. Just go ahead and click on OK, or excuse me, import, and then click on OK. Notice I've selected Arts 120. And once you do that, all of your goals for that course will be listed there. Now, I have some example goals here, or some example folders here. Pay no attention to that. In most cases, you will only have the one that you just imported. You can add more outcomes to that if you would like, simply by clicking on Add an Outcome. You can add another folder to that if you would like to do that. That is totally up to you, and obviously, as you just saw right there, you can move it around as needed. But let's focus on the actual goals here. Now that they are a part of your course, now you have the ability to add them to assessments. The way that you're going to add them to assessment is through a rubric. The easiest way to create and modify your rubrics is within this outcomes screen right here by clicking on the ellipses right here, and then it will say Manage Rubrics, and that will take you to the different rubrics that you might have. You may see that there are some that may have already been created. You may have had some come in if you did a course import from a previous course. But in any case, you can access any rubrics that are already there. You can edit them, you can delete them, you can do what you want simply by clicking on them, or you can add a new rubric, okay, just like that. Just to take a moment to step aside and show you another way to add a rubric. Let me quick jump over. I'm going to open a new tab here. Let me go to my modules quick. If I go over here to my second module, I have an assignment here that doesn't have a rubric attached to it currently. All right, so here's my assignment summary, and you see the plus rubric key right here. If you do that, that's another way that you can add a rubric. You can also go find those saved rubrics, and actually you can find rubrics from any of your different courses here as well. Okay, and so that's another way to access rubrics. I'm going to go back to my other tab. And from here, you can add criteria for the rubric. If you only want to apply outcomes, then you can do that as well, simply by getting rid of that criteria. Click on Find Outcome. There's that outcome folder that we imported. And for this particular assignment, I only want to add outcome number 1, and let's say outcome number 3. So I'll click on, first of all, Goal 1. And now you have a choice. You can use this for actually scoring the assignment. And if you want that to be the case, then you have to leave this check mark checked. Use this criterion for scoring. If you just want to apply the outcome or the goal to the assessment, so it shows up in the Mastery gradebook, then just uncheck that. Now it will not be actually scored in the gradebook, but it will be included in the Mastery. Click OK. And now this rubric has been created. I mentioned that we wanted to add another outcome to that. All we have to do is find outcome. I said goal 3. Once again, you're going to have to uncheck that if you do not want to use it for scoring. Click OK. And now you see we have a rubric here. And let me actually call this what it needs to be called. We'll apply this to assignment 2 that didn't have a rubric. And we click on Create Rubric, and right now we have that assignment 2. All right, so now we have a rubric created. We've added our goals or our outcomes. And now it's time for us to add it to that assignment. So let's go back to that module. Let me go ahead and cancel this. And let's go ahead and add that rubric again. Okay. I don't want to create one from scratch, which is what it's having me do right now. So I'm going to click on Find Rubric. And the course that I added it to was this Canvas Intro one that I'm working on. So I just click on that course. And then I had called it Assignment 2. There's my Goal 1 and my Goal 3. I will scroll down and I will say, use this rubric. And now I have applied a rubric to an assignment that didn't previously have one. If you don't like how it looks, you can go into this assignment and you can edit the rubric right from here. Okay. Notice there's a few check boxes here. All right. The first one, I'll write free-form comments when assessing students. Basically what this means is in SpeedGrader, you will have the ability to add comments. Okay. You can give more freedom to yourself when grading or when assessing the work that's been done. You also have a checkbox here that will allow you to use this rubric for assignment grading. In this case, obviously, we're not going to do that because we checked that box. But if you had other criterion that you would see in other rubrics, you might use the rubric itself for grading, and that will record the score when you're working on it in SpeedGrader. And then finally, you have a checkbox for hide score total for assessment results. A lot of times students will see that the outcome, notice right here that the point value, even though it's saying 0 total points, it's still showing a point value. You can actually hide this and it will remove those points so your students won't misread that and think, wow, you know, that line's worth 5 points. And so that's a checkbox for that right there. So once we're ready to roll with it, click on Update Rubric. And now our rubric is now, and our outcomes are now attached to our particular assignment right here. Last thing we need to do is we can head on over to our gradebook, and when we are ready to grade, if I actually go to SpeedGrader, and now I see one of my students, I can view that rubric right there. And from that, I can assign mastery right then and there. Okay. Notice that I don't have the ability to assign any points. Okay, because the only reason that I was doing that assessment was to show that they're meeting the course goals. I go ahead and save it. And now I have the ability to actually grade the student work as well. There would be student work here if we were doing this for real. And that's the actual grade I'm going to apply to it. Okay, I can add some comments. Keep in mind that you can attach a file still and do your Canvas media or add speech recognition. Click Submit. And just like that, it has been recorded. And we can verify that it's been recorded. And if we check out the Learning Mastery Gradebook, we will now see that the student exceeded the mastery. And just a quick little overview on this, because I didn't spend a lot of time during the meeting talking about this. And just a quick little overview on this. For some of you, it might be kind of confusing to say, well, they got a 5 out of 3. That's not the case. Keep in mind that for this particular outcome, mastery was set at 3. So let's go back there and take a look at that quick, because I think this is a very important part of this, learning and understanding outcomes or the goals that we're going to apply. So if I go to the outcome here and I go to goal 1, you're going to see that there's some things about it. Obviously, the actual goal itself that you'll see on your syllabus. And then we have the different ways that we can rate this. Now, here's the deal. Since these have been added at the institution level, you don't have the ability to adjust how they're scored. If you add your own outcomes, you can adjust, the point value or level here. But if you're not going to be using your outcomes for scoring, it's not as big of a deal. The one thing that you got to pay attention to is what we set the mastery level at. So if student gets a 3, well, they mastered that goal. Obviously, in the case that you just saw, the student got a 5 out of 3 for goal number 1. So that states that they really exceeded the expectation. As I stated, there's different ways to calculate how these different items are scored. Basically what that means is if we're applying these goals to several different assessments, so if we're applying goal number 1 to 3 different assessments in our course, how are we going to score that? And let me show you one that I created just to give you an idea, and I'm going to click on edit here. And this is if you were to add your own, this is what we'd be looking at. You can insert more points here. By all means, you have the ability to do that. So if you wanted this to be 5, you just change this to 5 and click on insert here, and you could add a 3 to replace that one. You can change the mastery level, okay, depending on what you would like it to be. And like I said, the calculation method. All right, we're applying goal number 1 4 different times to 4 different assessments. All right, so how do we want to track it? Do we just want to say, hey, if they meet mastery at any point during the semester, then that's the mastery score we're going to keep. In that case, we use the calculation method of highest score. The decaying average puts the most stock in the most recent scoring. So the first time they try to do the goal, they got a 2. The next time they try to do the goal, they got a 5. The last time they did the goal, they got a 3. So it's still going to take into account the first 2, but it's going to put the most stock in the most recent one. And then obviously we have some other options as well. The most recent, and I said the most highest, and of course the n number of times. Basically what that means is they have to achieve mastery X amount of times in order to achieve mastery for that particular goal for the semester or for the term. And then once you're done, obviously you're going to save it. And that's if you were to, if you were to create your own outcomes. That's what we're going to have to go through as we work to defining how we're going to score these outcomes. So I think that pretty much sums it up. If I head back on over to the grade book just quick, if I can find it, we have our other goal here, and you see that met the mastery as well for old Lori Alien. Obviously, if we were at a 2, if we were at a 1, if we were at a 0, our color code would be a little bit different. As we have more students doing the work, our little breakdown here will look a little bit fancier and more detailed. But this is a nice way to kind of lay out how your students are doing in terms of the goals that you have laid out on your syllabus and what you are doing to assess those goals. So I don't want to go too long. I already probably did. But hopefully that gives you something that you can take a look at, stop, start, rewind, review. And if you have any other questions, by all means, feel free to ask. Canvas Guides is awesome. I sent you some links on outcomes in a video as well. Hopefully they did a better job explaining it than I did. But this is your MCC version of outcomes and rubrics. So thanks very much, and I look forward to working with all of you.